This week reminded us that we live in a country of alternate realities. In one country, the economy continues to do well, with markets, job growth, and wages all on the rise. In another, a past president called for an awakening amid political darkness, using the word dark 4 times in his speech. In one world, Brett Kavanaugh is a brilliant jurist ready to fill the shoes of Anthony Kennedy. But in the other, accusations of a rushed confirmation to paper over his past and charges that he might root out years of established legal precedent. In one America, there is a politically motivated dragnet meant to hamstring a duly elected president. And in the other, an investigation that has already resulted in felony guilty pleas and prison time. This is the country we live in. And tonight, perhaps for the first time in modern history, 2 men stand at the center of it in a historic collision.
We've got the best employment numbers in our history.
When you hear how great the economy is doing right now, let's just remember when this recovery started.
So we've started the wall. We've spent now close to $3.2 billion.
We can't just put walls up all around America.
You know, when Abraham Lincoln made the Gettysburg Address speech, he was excoriated by the fake news. They had fake news.
I don't mean to pretend I'm channeling Abraham Lincoln now, but that's not what he had in mind, I think, when he helped form the Republican Party.
For many, President Obama's words felt like a return to sanity. For others, it was a stark reminder of why President Trump won the election. Meanwhile, much of the country is just sick of all of it.
I conceive of myself as an independent conservative who caucuses with the Republicans, but frankly, neither of these parties have a long-term vision for the future of the country. There's massive stuff happening in America, and these parties are really pretty content to do 24-hour news cycles screaming at each other.
Why stay a Republican, and when's the last time you thought about becoming an independent?
I probably think about it every morning when I wake up, and I figure out why am I flying away from Nebraska to go to D.C. this week? Are we going to get real stuff done? So I'm committed to the party of Lincoln and Reagan as long as there's a chance to reform it.
Stuart Stevens, before I ask you, Mish, and the rest of the panel about President Obama, I'm just curious, you personally, have you thought about switching your party allegiance as you've watched all of this unfold?
Well, I'm glad you played the Ben Sasse clip because it gives me the convenient way to say I would consider myself a Ben Sasse Republican. I think that there really is a battle here for what you have to call the soul of the Republican Party. A lot of us were drawn to the Republican Party because it was an optimistic vision. It was character counts, personal responsibility, fiscal responsibility with the debt, strong on Russia, and all of those have been sort of turned on its head. I mean, I worked for President Bush, and it's not like we were perfect, but in our best moments, I think that we aspired to be better than we were. And I think that aspiration, that idea of compassionate conservatism,
but wasn't all
flawed
of that
as
rejected?
it was still
Wasn't
very
it rejected
important.
in 2016? I mean, why did Republican voters reject all that? I mean, is it because President Trump pushed racial buttons?
That's a very complicated, torturous question. It's difficult to talk about race in this. I don't think
is
you
it
can
though?
look at
I mean, I think there are a lot of people that would argue it's pretty straightforward.
I think that you can't look at the 2016 election and come to any conclusion other than Donald Trump won, and I think it was a fairly weak field. I think the danger in it is looking at it and drawing these conclusions that the party has to be a predominantly white party, that the party shouldn't reach out, that the party should write off California. Just because you won an election, he got less percentage of the overall vote than Mitt Romney did. This is not a future party that in a changing America, where you're not going to have the ability to win national elections just by getting more white voters. You have to have a different vision. That's just math. And you can get through 1 or 2 elections, but really I think there's a moral imperative that you have to represent more, and I think there's a political imperative that's looming out there.
You mean Schlesinger? Weigh in on that.
I'll say I think it's pretty straightforward to talk about race in the 2016 election. There was a presidential candidate that called Mexicans rapists and criminals, and there were millions of people who said that was okay. He won 53% of white women's vote. White people, essentially in a large mass, looked at Donald Trump and said, "This is what we want." That's not to say that obviously that all the people who voted for him are racist, but it's to say that race was a very central part of the reason why President Obama, I think, was talked about in the way that he was, and I think it's a big part of why President Trump is now in office. That said, when you look at the two different Americas, Obama was saying, one, I'm done with vacation, I'm back on the trail. A lot of people were very happy to hear that. I heard from a lot of sources that were like, finally Obama's back from vacationing. But what Obama's really talking about is also, he's saying to Democrats, you need to come on and bring it on. You need to kind of step into the ring here and really bring somewhat of a fight. But he's also saying for the people who sit at home, for all those people that we don't talk about, which is the millions of people who don't vote, who don't take part in the democratic institutions, you need to not wait for a savior. He literally said that, do not wait for a savior and think that things are going to get better. So I think Obama's vote and Obama's message, I should say, is more that people really need to get more engaged.
Yeah. Do you think there's any risk for him in activating the voters that voted for Trump partly because they were so disdainful of him?
In my mind, I don't think so, mainly because the Republicans are really good at having fill-ins. I remember I just went to a rally for President Trump. There was a woman there with a Hillary Clinton button, and I was like, it's 2018. People are still incensed and motivated by the idea of Hillary Clinton, even though she's not running for political office. So I think if you don't like Obama and he's the reason why you voted for Trump and he's the reason why you're going to go to the ballot, you're going to do that whether he's on the campaign trail or someone just mentions his name in a speech.
Yeah. Joel and Ken, you were watching at the top where Obama sort of took credit for the economy doing well. How much of that, first of all, do you think is fair? I mean, who's right about it? You cover this every day. And at the end of the day, do you think voters are going to be more willing to give Trump a pass because they're feeling well about themselves?
Well, what President Obama said in that speech is factually correct. The huge recovery did begin under his watch. There were many moments where you saw actual job creation supersede what we currently see right now under the Trump White House. But the numbers continue to grow. Wage growth was really stagnant for a long time. Labor force participation, which is issues of people actually going out and seeking jobs and finding jobs, well, that was really stagnant under Obama as well. So if you look at the economy, though, it continues to be the #1 issue most people are going to be voting around when it comes to the midterms.
Yeah.
And so if you want to look at issues in a way that matters to most regular Americans, it definitely is how much money you can make, your prospect for prosperity in the future, and what you can do to dig yourself out of whatever hole you're in, or perhaps buy a house. And that's where the Fed comes in, and that's where Jerome Powell comes in. So it's this big, complicated picture that it seems like you can really tug it both ways.
Right.
But Obama wasn't factually wrong. Trump isn't wrong about the fact that the economy is doing fine.
You know what else happened under the Obama administration? Inequality in this country continued to increase. No bank CEO was held accountable for the financial crisis. And the voters that elected Trump in Ohio, Michigan, and Pennsylvania didn't feel like their lives were improving.
Yeah.
And now they didn't bargain for this craziness that maybe they're getting with Donald Trump.
But they wanted somebody to try to shake it up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.